Hello, this is Paradigm here. I just wanted to revisit my early childhood years just to fill you on just a few, to fill you in just on a few more details. Though a lot of it I will leave out, a lot of my story. I will include a lot of details in my book versus here on YouTube. But of course, there's going to be the omittance of things that I can't remember as well. So I will only share with you what I do recall to the best of my recollections, and of course within the ways in which I'm able to express myself. I was a pretty happy child. I was happy alone or with others, spending time doing a lot of playing, and I would say I had a good childhood. And I used to play the piano since the age of 2, and I was called a prodigy basically because I was able to play the whole score to the sound of music by the age of 2. I used to know things that my parents would wonder about. They would wonder how I would know certain things. I was considered beyond my years. I tested out on an 11th grade level in the 3rd grade. I was considered a perfect baby by my parents. And let's see, as a very young child, I had thoughts of marriage and thought that maybe a good age to get married would be about 25, and then start having children by the age of 27. Of course, that never happened. Never really got very far in relationships. Didn't do well in that area. Not that I didn't do well, but I just didn't fall into place in that category of my life. Kind of recall being a baby and crying and thinking, oh, if somebody would just check on me, I would feel better. Not being able to form those thoughts into words, really. But I just remember crying and think, oh, I wish somebody would check on me, and if they would just check on me, I'd feel better. I used to have a lot of very vivid dreams, and of course I won't be discussing the details of any of these dreams except to say that I did have precognitive dreams, or perhaps dreams also of remote viewing, and I didn't really find out till decades later, because at that point, there was some point in my life, way later on in my life, where I realized I was having these precognitive dreams, and that I was able to remote view. And then I started remembering years and years later after that, that as a very young child, very, 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 very young, that I was having these dreams of incidences that were really taking place somehow, somewhere, sometime. The details in the dreams were of matters that I couldn't have known about. And so I realized that I had always had these powers, that I just didn't really become aware of it until years after I discovered that I even had these powers, or whatever you want to call it, dreams. Okay, so let's see. I didn't really have much of a runaway of imagination. I was never like the boy who cried wolf. It's mostly serious. I had to basically learn how to laugh and learn how to lie. I remember what I recall was the first time I lied, and I remember hearing my sisters lying and finding out about lies from my older sisters because they were doing it. And so I remember one day in kindergarten is when I believe I told my first lie. And I told my mother I had a stomach ache because I didn't want to go to school. And so, of course, she said, oh, well, you're staying home from school today. And then she was asking me questions like, well, where does it hurt? And then I got scared because I thought, well, I didn't know what to say after that. Where does it hurt? What was going to be my answer to that? So I just told her all over. So that's what that's how it happened when I first lied. I wasn't really allowed to play with trucks and cars for a long time because they were considered toys for the opposite sex. Girls were supposed to play with Barbies and, girls' toys. And oftentimes I would kind of bug my mom, to buy me trucks and cars, and I would even basically try to shoplift them, as a little teeny tiny kid. We'd be on the way out of the store and I'd see some cars and trucks and I'd pick them up and just basically try to walk out of the store with them. I remember doing that. And so finally my parents just gave in and decided to let me have my cars and trucks, which I really loved because I could take them anywhere and roll them around on walls and just everywhere in cars. I'm not going to talk too much about my father and my mother and my sisters in this segment. That's probably more information I might include in my book when I write it, because I figured I'd continue working on my book and put like the main skeleton, so to speak, of my story here on YouTube. Let's see. Well, I do have many memories, which I'll include more later. My parents did divorce when I was the age of 7, I believe, and so my mother basically took care of a couple of my other sisters and I, and we ended up staying in motels for a while here and there, and then lived in Laguna Beach for I think about a year, because I remember attending 3rd grade there. And we lived on a street where at the top of the street there was a Catholic church, and I used to go there once in a while just for something to do. And so also, before I get cut off here, I think I'm reaching that cutoff point. Let's see. We moved from Laguna Beach to Chicago, where I attended the 4th and 5th grade. We lived smack in the ghetto. Well, it was a ghetto at the time, in Hyde Park. And so let's see. I attended 4th and I think pretty much either most of 5th or all of 5th grade, I believe. So one of the two. And that was before we moved to Santa Cruz, which is where my story really starts. So, I just want to mention, though, so that I'm fully honest